I think after that election, the opposition has only won Narukola's election.
Because after that, NRM
After that
decided
election,
no.
after that election, they went to Hoima, where they were backing the Asinas Nakato FDC candidate. She lost. They went to Shema, where they were backing an FDC candidate. He lost. Of course, they went to Kayunga.
Yes, I know what happened
and
to
you know what
Nakede.
happened to and it is only Narukola 7 years later that the opposition has picked a win.
But I think it was also the, I should say, the rise. It marked the real rise of Robert Kyagulanyi as a political force in the opposition. It was also the decline of Kizza Besigye's influence on the election. Because before that, I think when we talked about presidential aspirants from the opposition, it was always Kizza Besigye was the person people thought about. But I think he did not read the political environment that was shifting, and Robert Kyagulanyi took advantage of things.
And the young people, he took all the young people.
I actually think Moses is right. That time really shaped who Bobi Wine would become in the years to come. But I know that there was seemingly a vacuum that was always creating. Look at the run-up to the 2016 election. 2016 election, they literally, everyone knows that Dr. Kizza Besigye was forced into that election because he had already withdrawn from it and saying elections in Uganda can't make sense. So if you have Dr. Kizza Besigye, who has twice been coerced to go and run, that time when he was in South Africa, and a team from FDC and the other people, the Amanya Mshegas, had to go to South Africa to convince him to come and run as opposition or FDC at that time. Then you are going forward, and FDC is saying we still have Besigye, but then Besigye publicly is saying I don't want to run.
Yeah, so that takes us now to 2021.
Yes, so
where he's not running.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll do Moses and then yourself. How did we prepare for 2021 then, having seen all these things that happened in 2018? And then how does that lead us? How have the dynamics shifted from Besigye not contesting, and now we have Bobi Wine, but we also have the growing violence in elections and difficulties in coverage for the press. It got more complicated, yes.
What I'll say is that, of course, 2021 was a difficult election because it was a COVID election. And there were lots of restrictions on crowd sizes, crowd coverage. The lessons we learned at the time, of course, at the time the company was able to bring in more vehicles. So all our teams were instructed to stay as close as possible to where the vehicles were. With the exception of the presidential race, I think where there was fairly more security, I guess. Because Geoffrey and Herbert Ziwa covered the presidential race this time rather than the opposition race. And the opposition contests, as you remember, were difficult because the police did not allow these people to hold huge rallies, as has been the case in the past. Most rallies were as small as possible, and then some candidates were forced not to stop anywhere. I think Patrick Amboya Muriat and Tumukunde can testify they were not allowed to hold any rallies in public. Then, of course, as time 2026 is going to be a much more different election, because then we have to now prepare for open air rallies. and prepare various contingency measures to protect our journalists.
And Kawempe has already shown us
Yes.
what can happen at these open air rallies. Maybe your take, Derek, and then we can talk to Jeff as a person who is actively covering, and perhaps we can close.
Yeah, I feel the 2021 election was always going to be hard and that chaotic like we saw it. But no one should even like convince us that there is anything that's going to change. It's actually just going to multiply, because then we are coming from Arua, which was 2018. Then you have about 5 years in between. Then we ran to 2026. It was always going to, 2021. It was always going to show. It was always a precursor of what we are going to see in the following election. So 2026 certainly was always going to be chaotic. You talked about Jeff being on President Museveni's camp. And I remember that time when we met in Iganga. You remember when we were crisscrossing in Iganga?
Yes.
We jumped off our vehicles to go and say hello to our friends. We were wearing bulletproof masks. We were on headgears and stuff like these people.
And they were not wearing anything.
No, they were carrying
Laptops.
bananas. They are eating bananas. They have these shorts. They were
fully
deeply in holiday. Then I asked them, which campaign are you carrying? Are you covering from Uganda or China?
So there's a distinct
there's
difference
certainly going
between
to be
the
that
people who are covering the opposition.
There's always going to be that juxtaposition, and I know very many journalists would feel very comfortable covering the president because of the extra security that he comes with, and the fact that you're very safe, even when like there are open air campaigns, unless they crisscross, which I don't think is very. They will allow it to happen, like when President Museveni is say going to Sironko, and then and then maybe Amuriat is in Mbale town. That crisscrossing, I don't think they can allow it to happen. But if not that, the people who are on the Museveni rally are always going to be safe. We saw it here in Kawempe North. The Nalkola people were being beaten left, right, and center. These ones were dancing their way to the polling station.
They had their own grader.
They had their own grader, and they had a grader. Did they have a what? A horse or something like that? And they were happy. So
they were very happy.
So Moses, as you deploy us, please look into some of these things.
Jeff,
what
close with you, and as a person who is always on the ground, looking at these things.
Yeah, what I know, we always have a strategy. Like we say, journalists, let us be together. Like if they want to beat us, they beat us as a group. But this, sometimes. You look this side and this side, you don't see anyone. They can tell us, they tell us that you be together, no one will beat you when you are together. But this doesn't. But
the reality on the ground is very.
When you reach there,
when the beating starts, everybody takes off.
But you see, in Kawempe North, they told us to be together such that they can easily beat us from there. They wanted us to be
together. This was a disadvantage.
Yes, this was if they tell now this time round we don't know what to do, because they told us to be together such that they don't beat us. Here in Kawempe, get together such that you don't disturb us here. We're chasing you from where you are together with us from there.
You journalists, you just be in that corner. You be there. And then they come and pick you from there. So it is really
going to be difficult.
It's going to be interesting. Thank you, guys. I think this has been a very interesting recap, and also looking forward to what to expect really in the coming election. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.